If I could have your attention, please. At this time, we're going to begin the funeral services here in our chapel for Mr. Arthur Manaster. As we begin the service, I would ask if any of you may have a cell phone or any other noise-making device, please turn it off at this time. Officiating the service here today is Rabbi Daniel Kurzane from Oak Park Temple in Oak Park. Thank you, Rabbi.
It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch. A fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. Dear friends and family, we gather this morning to mourn the passing and to celebrate the life of dear Arthur, Zichrono Livracha. As was mentioned, my name is Daniel Kurzane. I'm one of the rabbis at Oak Park Temple, where Art's daughter, Marsi, has made her family's Jewish home. Though I didn't have a chance to know Art personally, I've come to know him through the stories shared by his family. This community that forms here, and the community that has joined us by watching through the live stream online, is a unique community that only could come together surrounding this special person. Together, our community ensures that his memory will live on as a blessing. Shir Lama'alot. Esa einai me'ayin yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz. Al yitain lamot raglecha, al yanum shomrecha. Hine, lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka ve'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorcha mikora, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeitcha uvoecha me'atav ad olam. Psalm 121 is a song for ascents. I lift my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from God, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Eternal One is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. The Eternal will guard you from all harm. God will guard your life. The Eternal will guard your going and coming, now and forever. And the child asked, "Tell me of life." And the sage answered, "Life, my child, is a mystery. We do not ask to be born, nor do we even understand the meaning of birth, of creation. We grow and we experience life's pleasures and pains. We love, and slowly, oh so slowly, we come to realize that we have become, that we are. At that moment, we humble ourselves before the mystery of life and quietly say, though I knew not, I have been granted the most precious gift of all, the gift of life. And the child asked, tell me of death. And the sage answered, death, my child, is a mystery. It is the inevitable return of the gift of life, the gift which came free to us. We live as the trustee of that mysterious being, of that unexplainable becoming. Yes, you and I are but trustees of life. We nurture it, we delight in it, we give of it to others. And at the appointed time, we sadly yet with pride, return it from whence it came. The beauty, my child, is that we are what we have become, is that what we are, what we have become, remains long after the gift has been returned. It remains as a precious keepsake with our loved ones who live on. A reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. Lakol zman ve'et lachol chefetz tachat hashamayim. For everything there is a season, a time for every experience under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. This passage is a hallmark of Jewish funerals. It comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, a collection of wisdom literature ascribed to King Solomon and considered a sober reflection of the meaning of life and death. It reminds us of the myriad ups and downs we all face and to appreciate the precious moments gifted to us for our limited time on earth. And if he were here, I think it might remind Art of a song. Everything has its season. Everything has its time. Show me a reason and I'll show you a rhyme. This is the opening to Corner of the Sky from Stephen Schwartz's musical Pippin. For some of us, the ancient words of Jewish tradition root us and hold us firm. For others, and I suspect Art was among them, the words of a song ring more clearly in our ears. It continues, rivers belong where they can ramble. Eagles belong where they can fly. I've got to be where my spirit can run free. Gotta find my corner of the sky. Art had his periods of rambling, and he certainly had his moments of flight. We gather in his spirit, directing our thoughts, memories, and prayer in his honor to his very corner of the sky. As Art's journey in this world comes to an end, we celebrate the blessings he enjoyed in life and appreciate the gifts he bestowed upon all who knew him. Today we say farewell to a man who was responsible and kind, affable and unassuming, who was deeply loved and who loved deeply in return. Arthur was born in Gary, Indiana, July 14th, 1931, to Jaime and Rose Manaster. After his parents' divorce, he spent a brief period with his aunt and uncle, in which his uncle suddenly and tragically died before his very eyes. Art and his sister Dorothy came to Chicago, where they would move from room to room with one family or another, until finally settling with their father into an apartment when Art was 9 years old. From an early age, Art had to be independent. He did chores around the house, including making lunch for himself and his family. He was a quiet, slightly awkward kid. And it was in these early years that Art discovered his love for building things. He enjoyed playing with Lincoln logs and model houses, and he joined a club for other young builders when he was 10 or 11. Art was bright, but unfocused, and he dropped out of school before graduating. This made him eligible for the draft, and before long, Art was an Army man. Narrowly escaping a combat assignment, Art spent the Korean War applying his sharp intellect to supply chain logistics in West Germany. Less than a decade earlier, many of Art's father's cousins had been murdered by the Nazis, So this period in Germany was a surreal chapter that Art didn't talk much about. Still, those years had a profound impact on his life. Art returned to the United States a new man. He enrolled in college, flying through an engineering degree and then earning an MBA at Loyola. He met his beloved wife, Dottie, who was, and I'm not joking, his cousin Al's girlfriend's sister. Despite all the challenges these two would face, the love between them was enough to build an entire life around. Art's discipline and his success at school launched him into starting his own company in instrumentation consulting. He took this business very seriously, going so far as to record official minutes of shareholder meetings that included him and his wife and his friend Joe. Art loved work, reveling in the technical challenges of his projects. But he knew how to have fun too. Marsi, Rob, and Kerry remember their parents going out every weekend. They patronized theaters and restaurants with a core group of close, lifelong friends. Art's best friend, of course, was always Dottie. He was absolutely devoted to her, and their company was always enough for one another. During his prime years, the two of them had several opportunities to take some memorable trips, whether he was cruising from Vancouver, gambling in Las Vegas, or finding the perfect restaurant in Lake Tahoe. Art always knew how to have a good time. His life and that of his whole family would take a radical turn, of course, when a devastating car accident left Dottie very impaired. Art's life recentered to focus on her care. For 20 years, Art dedicated himself to her, taking personal responsibility for her health and well-being. Even when she had to eventually move to an assisted living facility, Art went there every single day, even driving a van for other visitors who needed a ride. When her condition became very serious, Art and Dottie fell back on their common passion, musicals. They would watch a different musical every day, allowing the music and the drama unfurl manifold worlds before their eyes and ears, allowing them once again to travel together to far-off lands with interesting people. When Dottie died of COVID very early in the pandemic, it absolutely broke his heart, particularly since he wasn't able to be with her at the end as he had been every single day for their many decades of marriage. Because family, more than anything else, was the center of Art's world. Whether it was bringing his kids to visit their grandfather every single weekend or reveling in his own role as a grandpa, nothing mattered more than family. Of course, some people, like those close friends, could almost feel like family with Art, and his care and concern expanded to include neighbors who needed help around their house or acquaintances whose car needed some repair. Even though he was quiet, Art was easy to talk to, and being with him always put you at ease. You were always comfortable when you were with Art. He had an uncanny way of making you feel as if you were at home. And in the end, home is precisely where Art wanted to be. Diagnosed with cancer on the 3rd of July, the day before his favorite holiday, Art knew that his time was limited. And still, as a model to us all, he lived every day to its fullest. He stuck to his routines. He stayed on his treadmill. He kept spooning Skippy peanut butter into his mouth. When he died, at home, with his children by his side, Art knew that he was surrounded, as he always had been, with love. The book of Arthur's life is one from which we can all grow and learn. He was patient and strong, able to care about the details without losing sight of the big picture. And his own experience taught him that love and family were worth more than achievement or wealth. He might have written himself these words from Ecclesiastes: "Enjoy happiness with a person you love, all the fleeting days of life that have been granted to you under the sun. And whatever it is in your power to do, do with all your might. As we remember Art and honor his legacy, we will continue to hear his voice echoing in our hearts. It's as if he's saying to us, again quoting from Pippin, "So don't ask where I'm going, just listen when I'm gone, and far away you'll hear me singing softly to the dawn." Zichrono livracha, may his memory ever be for a blessing. We continue with a moment of silent remembrance. O God, we see life through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern that is the dwelling place of your love and glory. In a moment, we'll conclude our service with El Molei Rachamim, the Jewish memorial prayer that asks God to watch over our dearly departed with the loving protection of a mother bird. Following this prayer, our service will continue at the cemetery as we lay Art to rest. I invite you to rise as you are able for the morning prayer. El Molei Rachamim, Shochein Bamaromim, Hamtzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina, im kedoshim utehorim kezohar harakia masirim, et nishmat Avraham Moshe ben Chaim Menachem shehalach laolamo. Ba'al harachamim yastirehu beseter kanafav laolamim, v'yitzur bitzur hachayim et nishmato. Adonai hu nachalato, v'yanuach beshalom al mishkavo, v'nomar. Amen. God of abundant mercy, God most high, may the soul of our loved one, Arthur Manaster, who has gone into eternity, find the gift of perfect peace in the wings of your presence, together with the holy and pure whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold him close to you forever. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May he find a hope in you, may he find a home in you, and may he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Please be seated. On behalf of the President of the United States and a grateful nation, I present to you this flag in recognition, thanks, and praise for your father's service to our country. This concludes the service here in our chapel. The interment will take place immediately at the family's plots at West Lawn Cemetery, 7801 West Montrose in Norwich. Because of ongoing public health concerns, the Shiva will be private. For those of you going in procession with us to the cemetery, the procession will form in our parking lot. Please make sure you have an orange funeral safety sticker. You should place that in the front passenger side of your windshield. We would also ask that you please have your bright headlights and flashing hazard lights on at all times. For an additional measure of safety, our staff will be placing magnetic flags on the tops of the vehicles throughout the procession. Now, the procession will be traveling on the highway. We'll be traveling at a speed that's safe, but invites people to get out of our procession. You will find that people will merge in and out of the procession. Just let them pass, let them merge on, let them merge off. We have a car at the back of the procession. We'll keep all of us together. For those of you in attendance, Want to make sure you're aware the family has asked that memorial contributions be made to the American Cancer Society. That information's on the inside portion of the funeral service you received. If you did not receive them, they are available. For those of you watching online, the service information's available on the website that you're currently on. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise as the deceased and his family and rabbi are escorted from the chapel. Thank you. I ask that you please go directly to your cars. The family will not be greeting at the funeral home any longer today. Thank you. Level 2. You're welcome to be seated if you wish. At this time, we're going to proceed with the interment portion of the service. I would ask if any of you may have used your cell phones while en route, please make sure they're turned off or in the silent mode. Thank you.
The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God that gave it. It is only the house of the Spirit which we now lay within the earth. The Spirit itself cannot die. Receive in mercy, O God, the soul of our departed Arthur. Grant him that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has grasped it, still it is our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion. O God, help us to understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is the measure of a love stronger than death. Though we cry in the anguish of our hearts, may we be like children who know that their parent is near and who cling unafraid to the trusted hand. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to us to your keeping. Let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, we'll put the earth on top.
Dale para acá. Ahí derecho, ahí derecho, ahí derecho.
Dayan ha'emet, shofet tzedek ve'emet, Baruch Dayan ha'emet, kicho mishpatav tzedek ve'emet, nefesh kol chai biyadecha, tzedek mal'a yimincha biyadecha. O Judge of justice and truth, blessed is the Judge of truth, for all your judgments are just and true. The souls of all who live are in your righteous hands. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. In a moment, we'll recite once again El Malei Rachamim, the Jewish memorial prayer. And following El Malei Rachamim, we will begin the process of burial by personally laying earth on the grave. An act that our tradition teaches us is the greatest mitzvah, an act of pure selflessness. Mitzvah chesed shel emet, a true kindness. Each person should choose to place as much or as little earth as you like. Everyone is invited to. The custom is to do the first shovelful with a shovel upside down to represent how overturned we are at this moment, and then to turn the shovel up and to put in some earth. We are taking personal part in accompanying Art to his final resting place. Following our final farewell, we will conclude with the mourner's Kaddish. Please rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein B'Maromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanafei Shechina, Im Kedoshim U'Tehorim Kezohar Harakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Avraham Moshe Ben Chaim Menachem Shahalach Le'olamo, Ba'al Harachamim Yastirehu B'Seter Kenafav Le'olamim, V'Yitzur B'Tzur HaChayim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato V'Yanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkavo, V'Nomar. Amen. God of abundant mercy, God Most High, may the soul of our loved one, Arthur Manaster, who has gone into eternity, find the gift of perfect peace in the wings of your presence, together with the holy and pure whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold him close to you forever. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May he find a home in you, and may he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
For those of you that elect to participate today, please watch your step at all times around the open grave.
Oh, you're good.
Lech, Kishilchacha Adonai, go your way, for God has called you. Lech va'Adonai yihiyeh imach, go your way, and may God be with you. V'halach lefanecha tzidkecha kavod Adonai ya'asvecha. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. The Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah. Be'alma divrach lirutei ve'anlich malchutei. B'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach la'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha barichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Da'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. Hamakom yenachem etchem betoch sha'ar avalei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May God console you with all who mourn in Zion and Jerusalem. Now go forth in peace to life.
This concludes the service here at the cemetery. Anyone wishing to stay and watch the final covering of the grave is welcome to do so. Otherwise, you may return to your cars. Thank you.
Hopefully I'll see you. So are you in Champaign now?